My fiancée kissed someone else right before the New Year countdown and whispered, "It was a mistake." I whispered back, "So was this ring. Canceled everything overnight." And I smiled when her family found out on January 1st. "Hey, Reddit. It was a mistake," she whispered, her breath still carrying the faint scent of champagne and someone else's cologne. I looked down at the engagement ring on her finger, the one I'd saved 8 months for, working doubles and skipping meals, and felt something inside me go completely cold. Around us, the New Year's Eve party continued in full swing. Music pounded through the walls. People laughed and shouted countdowns in adjacent rooms. Nobody had seen what I'd just witnessed on that balcony through the window. Nobody except me. "So was this ring," I whispered back. Her face went white. "I'm 26. She's 24. We'd been together for 3 years, engaged for 7 months. The wedding was scheduled for June, venue booked, deposits paid, invitations designed, and waiting at the printer. Her parents had already bought their outfits. My brother had cleared his calendar to be my best man. 200 guests. A lakeside ceremony. Everything I'd dreamed about since the night I knew she was the one. Or thought I knew. We were at her cousin's house for the party. One of those massive events with 50 people crammed into every floor, strangers mixing with friends, music competing with conversation. I'd gone to grab us drinks from the kitchen. When I came back to the living room, she wasn't there. I checked the bathroom, the den. Then I saw the balcony door slightly ajar, cold December air slipping through. I walked over with 2 glasses in my hands. Through the window, I saw her pressed against someone I'd never met. Some guy in an expensive-looking sweater, his hands on her waist, her arms around his neck, their mouths locked together with the kind of intensity that doesn't happen by accident. I watched for maybe 5 seconds, long enough to be absolutely certain of what I was seeing, long enough for the image to burn itself permanently into my memory. Then I pushed the door open. They broke apart instantly. She saw me. Her eyes went huge. The guy looked confused, then uncomfortable. Then he muttered something about not knowing and disappeared back inside before I could say a word to him. That's when she said it. That's when she tried to reduce what I'd just seen to 2 words. It was a mistake. And that's when I responded. Now we were standing there in the cold, her shaking, me feeling weirdly calm. The kind of calm that comes after something breaks so completely that you stop caring about fixing it. "Wait," she said, reaching for my arm. "Please, let me explain. I don't even know him. We were just talking and then, I don't know what happened. I had too much to drink. It didn't mean anything. How long were you out here before I showed up?" She hesitated. Maybe 10 minutes? 15. So you had time to think. Time to stop. Time to walk away. I wasn't thinking clearly. You were thinking clearly enough to make sure I wasn't around first. She flinched like I'd slapped her. I set both drinks down on the balcony railing. The champagne looked golden under the string lights someone had hung up. Pretty. Festive. Completely at odds with everything I was feeling. "Take the ring off," I said quietly. No. Please, we can talk about this. We can work through it. People make mistakes. I'm not people. And you're not just anyone. You were supposed to be my wife. I still can be. This doesn't have to ruin everything. It already has." My voice didn't rise. I didn't yell. I'd spent 3 years with this person. I knew how she argued. I knew she was good at turning things around, making you question your own perception, convincing you that your reaction was the real problem. I'd watched her do it to her friends, her co-workers, even her own mother. Not this time. "Take off the ring," I repeated, "or I take it off for you." Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely grip it. The band caught on her knuckle. She had to twist and pull. When it finally came free, she tried to hand it to me, but I stepped back. "Keep it. Sell it. Throw it in a lake. I don't care. Where are you going?" "Home. You can figure out your own ride." I walked back through the party. Nobody stopped me. Nobody noticed anything wrong. Why would they? It was New Year's Eve. Everyone was drunk and happy and counting down to midnight. I passed her cousin in the hallway, the host, who gave me a thumbs up and shouted something about the champagne toast in 20 minutes. I just nodded and kept walking. My car was parked 3 blocks away. The street was lined with vehicles, every house lit up and alive with celebration. I sat in the driver's seat for maybe 2 minutes, hands on the wheel, staring at nothing. My phone started buzzing. Her name lit up the screen. I powered it off. Then I drove home to our apartment, the place we'd shared for the past year and a half. I had 12 days left on my paid time off from work. I'd been saving it for the honeymoon. Now I was going to use it for something else entirely. I started with the wedding. First call went to the venue. I got their emergency line. They had staff working even on New Year's Eve for exactly these kinds of situations. The woman who answered sounded tired but professional. "I need to cancel a wedding," I said. "June 14th. I'm very sorry to hear that. Can I have the booking name?" I gave her the information. She pulled it up. "Okay, I see it here. I have to inform you that cancellations made less than 6 months before the event date forfeit the entire deposit. That's $4,000. I know. Cancel it anyway. Are you sure? Would you like to speak with our—" "I'm sure. Please just cancel it." She processed it while I waited. 2 minutes later, it was done. June 14th was now available for someone else's dream wedding. Next was the photographer. He answered on the 3rd ring. Music and laughter in his background too. "Hey, happy New Year's Eve, man. What's up? I need to cancel for June." The music got quieter. He must have moved to another room. "Oh, damn. Everything okay?" "No, but I need to cancel. Look, I get it. Things happen. But you know I've already turned down 3 other bookings for that date, right? My cancellation policy. Whatever I lose, I lose. I just need it canceled." He sighed. "All right. I'm sorry things didn't work out. I'll send you the paperwork tomorrow." "Thank you." I went through the list methodically. Caterer, florist, DJ, the cake designer who'd already done 2 tasting sessions with us, the transportation company, the hotel blocks I'd reserved for out-of-town guests. Some people were sympathetic. Some were annoyed about losing the business. One vendor actually tried to talk me out of it, suggesting couples therapy and postponement instead of cancellation. I thanked her for her concern and canceled anyway. By 3 in the morning, every single vendor had been contacted. I'd lost roughly $9,000 in deposits and fees. Money I'd worked my tail off to save. Money that represented hundreds of overtime hours and skipped lunches and walking to work instead of driving. Worth every penny. I didn't sleep. Instead, I started packing her things. We'd moved most of her stuff into my apartment when we got engaged. Her lease had been ending anyway, and it seemed stupid to pay for 2 places when we were getting married in 6 months. Now I carefully folded her clothes, packed her books, wrapped her decorations in newspaper. I worked in complete silence, my phone still powered off, the apartment dark except for the lamp in the bedroom. Around 6 in the morning, I heard keys in the door. She came in looking exhausted. Makeup smeared, hair messy. She'd obviously spent the whole night freaking out, probably calling me over and over, maybe crying to her friends at the party. She stopped when she saw the boxes. "What are you doing?" "Packing your things. You can take them now, or I'll drop them at your parents' house tomorrow." "You're serious? You're really doing this?" "Yes." Over one kiss. One stupid drunken kiss with someone who means absolutely nothing. I looked at her directly. If he means nothing, that almost makes it worse. You risked us for nothing. I didn't risk us. You're the one blowing this up. I watched you kiss another man at a party where everyone thinks we're this perfect couple planning this perfect wedding. I watched you choose that moment, that person, that action, and now I'm choosing my response. She started crying. Real tears this time, not the manipulative kind she used when she wanted something. "Please. I love you. I made a horrible mistake, but I love you. We can fix this." "No," I said simply. "We can't." "Why not? Why are you being so stubborn?" "Because if I forgive this, I'll spend the rest of my life wondering when it'll happen again. Every party, every work event, every time you're out of my sight. I'll be that guy who checks his partner's phone, who needs to know where you are every minute." who can't trust the person he married. I refuse to become that person. You're being unreasonable. I'm being smart. And I'm being done. I handed her the car keys to her old car, the one we'd kept as a second vehicle. Your stuff is packed. Take what you can fit tonight. I'll bring the rest to your parents tomorrow. Tomorrow is New Year's Day. Tomorrow is when we're supposed to have brunch with my family. They're expecting both of us. They're going to ask about the wedding planning. Then I guess you'd better figure out what you're going to tell them. The look on her face was almost satisfying, almost enough to offset the hollowness spreading through my chest. She loaded her car in silence, making 3 trips. I didn't help. I just watched from the doorway. When she finished, she stood there for a long moment, looking at me like she was waiting for me to crack, to change my mind, to decide that losing her was worse than what she'd done. I closed the door. I heard her car start, heard it drive away. Then I sat down on the couch in an apartment that suddenly felt enormous and empty, and I let myself feel it. All of it. The betrayal, the loss, the death of a future I'd been counting on. I gave myself 1 hour to fall apart. Then I got back to work. I called my brother at 8 in the morning. He answered groaning. Dude, why? It's New Year's Day. I'm dying. The wedding's off. Silence. Then what? I told him everything. He listened without interrupting, which is rare for him. When I finished, he just said, I'm coming over. You don't have to. I'm coming over. Give me an hour. He showed up with coffee and breakfast sandwiches and the kind of solid presence that reminded me why I'd asked him to be my best man. We sat at my kitchen table and he let me talk through all of it again. Then he said the exact right thing. You did the right thing. It's going to hurt like hell for a while, but you did the right thing. Her family's going to lose their minds. Let them. Not your problem anymore. At 11, I loaded up my car with the rest of her boxes and drove to her parents' house. They lived in a nice neighborhood about 30 minutes away, the kind of place with actual lawns and driveways and holiday decorations still up from Christmas. Her dad's car was in the driveway. So was her mom's. And her sister's. The whole family was there for New Year's Day brunch, just like she'd said. Perfect. I rang the doorbell. Her mom answered, smiling wide. Oh, you're here. Come in, come in. We were just about to sit down. Where's? She saw the boxes stacked behind me on the porch. Her smile faltered. Is she here? I asked politely. She? Yes, she's upstairs. What's going on? Could you get everyone together? Living room, maybe? This won't take long. Something in my tone must have warned her. She disappeared inside. I heard muffled voices, confusion, then footsteps on stairs. The whole family gathered in the living room. Her dad, her mom, her sister, her grandmother who'd flown in from Arizona for the holidays, and her, standing at the back of the room, her face already red and puffy from crying. They all looked at me expectantly. I stayed standing in the doorway, professional, calm. I wanted to let you all know at once. The wedding is canceled. All vendors have been notified. All deposits have been forfeited. I've brought her belongings. They're on the porch. Her mother actually gasped. What? What? I looked directly at my now ex-fiancé. Would you like to tell them, or should I? She said nothing, just stared at the floor. Last night at the New Year's Eve party, I found her on the balcony kissing another man. When confronted, she called it a mistake. I agreed. The engagement was the mistake. So I've corrected it. The room exploded. Her dad started shouting. At her, not me. Her mom burst into tears. Her sister looked shocked. Her grandmother sat down heavily on the couch. And she just stood there, crying, while her family tore into her with questions and accusations and disbelief. I didn't stay to watch. I turned and walked back to my car. Behind me, I heard her mother call my name, but I didn't stop. I got in, started the engine, and drove away from that house for the last time. My phone, which I'd finally powered back on, started going crazy around noon. Her friends, mutual friends, even a few of my own friends who'd heard through the grapevine. Everyone wanted to know what happened. If it was true, if there was any chance we'd work it out. I sent the same message to everyone. It's over. It's final. Please respect my privacy. Then I muted the conversations and focused on what came next. I took the next week to myself. I rearranged the apartment, putting furniture where I wanted it instead of where she'd insisted. I hung up posters and art she'd hated. I bought groceries I liked. I started going to the gym at 5 in the morning because I could, because my schedule was my own now. I also started therapy. I'm not an idiot. I knew this was going to mess me up in ways I couldn't predict. Better to have professional help processing it than to let it fester and poison future relationships. My therapist asked me in the first session if I regretted my decision. No, I said immediately. I regret what she did. I regret wasting 3 years on someone who could throw it away that easily. But I don't regret ending it. That's a healthy perspective, she said. A lot of people in your position would have tried to make it work. I watched my mom do that with my dad. He cheated when I was 12. She forgave him. He did it again when I was 15. She forgave him again. They're still together, and she's still miserable. I learned from her mistake. The therapist nodded slowly. So this wasn't just about the kiss. The kiss was the evidence. But the problem was her. The fact that she could do it at all. That she could be that person. I don't want to marry that person. Word spread fast in our social circle. Some people took sides. A few friends I thought were solid turned out to be more loyal to her, or at least more sympathetic to the everyone makes mistakes narrative she was pushing. I let those friendships fade without fighting for them. If they couldn't see why this was a deal breaker, we didn't have the same values anyway. But most people got it. Most people, once they heard the full story, understood exactly why I'd walked away. My brother spread the word efficiently. He'd always been good at managing social dynamics. Within 2 weeks, the general consensus in our friend group was that she'd screwed up catastrophically and I'd handled it with more grace than she deserved. I appreciated that, even though it didn't make the nights any easier. The apartment felt wrong for a while. Too big, too quiet, too full of memories I couldn't escape. I thought about moving, but that felt like running away. Instead, I leaned into the discomfort. I invited my brother over for dinner. I hosted a Super Bowl party, small, just my closest friends, but it felt good to fill the space with better memories. Around mid-February, she reached out one last time. A long email, multiple pages, basically begging for another chance, promising she'd changed, saying she was in therapy too, claiming she understood now what she'd risked and how badly she'd hurt me. I read the whole thing once. Then I deleted it and blocked her email address. Some bridges, once burned, should stay burned. By March, I was genuinely doing better. Not healed. That would take longer, but functional. Happy, even in moments. I'd started dating casually, nothing serious, just reminding myself what it felt like to connect with someone new. To have conversations that weren't weighed down by history and betrayal. I ran into one of her friends at a coffee shop in April. She looked uncomfortable when she saw me, like she wasn't sure if I'd make a scene. Instead, I just nodded politely and went back to my laptop. She approached my table anyway. Hey, can I talk to you for a second? If it's about her, I'd rather not. It's not. Well, not really. I just wanted to say I think you handled everything really well. A lot of guys would have made it ugly. You just handled it. I didn't see the point in making it worse than it already was. She's not doing great, for what it's worth. I looked up at her. I'm not glad she's suffering, but I'm also not responsible for fixing it. She nodded slowly. That's fair. Anyway, I just wanted you to know that I get why you did what you did. And I'm sorry she put you in that position. I appreciate that. She left, and I went back to my work, feeling oddly lighter. That interaction, that small acknowledgement from someone in her inner circle, mattered more than I'd expected. June 14th came and went. The day that should have been my wedding. Instead, I went hiking with my brother and his wife. We climbed a mountain I'd been wanting to try for years, but had never made time for. At the summit, with the view stretching out for miles, my brother handed me a beer and said, "To dodging bullets." We clinked bottles. I drank, and I meant it when I smiled. I never found out who the guy was. Never looked him up, never asked mutual friends. Never let myself spiral into obsessing over details that didn't matter. He was a symptom, not the disease. The disease was her willingness to betray me in the first place. By summer, I'd fully reclaimed my life. New routines, new goals, new appreciation for the freedom to build a future on my own terms, without worrying about someone else torpedoing it at the worst possible moment. I still think about that night sometimes. The cold balcony, the string lights, the champagne I never drank. The moment everything changed with just a few whispered words. It was a mistake. So was this ring. People ask me if I wish I'd handled it differently. If I regret moving so fast, burning so many bridges so quickly. If maybe, with time and distance, I could have forgiven her and salvaged what we had. The answer is always no. Because here's what I learned that night. Trust, once broken that completely, can't be rebuilt. Not really. You can tape it together. You can pretend the cracks aren't there. But you'll always feel them. You'll always know it broke once, which means it can break again. I wasn't willing to spend the rest of my life walking on eggshells around someone who'd already proven they could shatter everything on a whim. So I walked away. I canceled the wedding. I packed her things. I told her family exactly why it ended. And I refused to let anyone convince me I was overreacting or being too harsh or throwing away something salvageable. Because it wasn't salvageable. It was already gone the moment she decided kissing a stranger was worth more than keeping me. I just had the clarity to recognize it and the courage to act on it. And honestly, that's the part I'm most proud of. Not the dramatic confrontation. Not the swift cancellations. Not even the satisfaction of watching her face when I told her family what happened. The part I'm proud of is that I loved myself enough to walk away. That I valued my own dignity and future happiness more than I valued preserving a relationship that had already betrayed me. That when she whispered it was a mistake, I had the strength to agree and to correct the mistake immediately. Some people call me cold, ruthless, unforgiving. I call it self-respect. And I wouldn't change a single thing about how I handled that night and everything that followed. Not the cancellations. Not the boxes on her parents' porch. Not the finality with which I closed the door on someone who'd already walked through it with someone else. I'm 26. I'm single. My apartment is quiet and organized exactly how I like it. My calendar is clear of wedding planning stress. My bank account is lighter, but my conscience is clear. My future is uncertain, but it's mine. And every single day, I'm grateful I had the guts to say, so was this ring, and mean it. Because that moment, that choice, saved me from a lifetime of regret, suspicion, and wondering when the other shoe would drop. Instead, I dropped it myself. On my terms. At the exact right moment. And I've never looked back.